posted on our website for those who may not have been able to join us or for reference for you later on. With that, we're going to move on to our general update, and I am going to turn it over to Mary Rutherford, our President and CEO.
Thanks, Riley. Well, those are a lot of words on that slide. People can go back and refer to my incredible background if they'd like, but for what it's worth. Thank you all for joining us today. I feel like I've broken record when I am on these calls with you and I'm able to share that it's truly an exciting time at the Montana Community Foundation. We work really hard every day to be the go-to place for philanthropy in Montana. And we don't do it alone. It truly takes not only all of our remarkable staff, but an absolutely amazing board of directors. And at the annual meeting last November, the board elected several new board members, and their names are on the slide that you can see. I hope that you'll recognize some of these people, but I hope, in addition to recognizing who they might be, the geographic diversity that we added to the board. You know, we have folks coming all the way from Glendive and Sydney from the east side to participate in the work that we're doing. Also pleased to tell you a little bit about some staff changes that have occurred. You know, we constantly take a look at our staffing functions to support the objectives that the board set in our strategic plan, and we're refining staff positions and adding staff, and in some cases collapsing positions. And so what you see here are some sort of new positions. Kathy Cooney, who has been with us for 10 years, has moved from a job that she held that really focused on 3 areas to enable her to focus strictly on donor services. And that's related to the 60 or so donor advised fund holders that we have here at the Community Foundation. And she's working with them to help them make some of their grant making more effective and proactively take things to them for grant making. So we think that's going to be a great service to our state. We also added Jessica Stewart-Kuhn has joined our team as our new grants and operations manager, and focusing on the grant making that are the discretionary grants that are under the Montana Community Foundation's board's purview. And then helping us operationally internally. As some of you may know, we've not only, our assets have grown dramatically over the last few years, from 63 million to about 80 million. And we didn't just happen to open the doors one day and checks started rolling in. We've done that deliberatively in reaching out to Montana. And we did that by supporting that work with some staff additions. So our staff has grown from about 5, when you count our staff, Kathy Cooney up in the Flathead and Jen Ewell with the Women's Foundation over in Missoula. 2 years ago we had a staff of 5, and we now have a staff of 15 serving Montana. So Jessica's helping us with the operations side of the house, personnel, IT, some of those areas. And then Jenny Lou Stark is moving into a position that is kind of a redefined position, focusing on scholarships. We're awarding well over $300,000 a year in scholarships, and also have a constituent record management database. And that's not a completely new position. We're blending 2 existing positions to create that position. I'd also let you know that we are intently focused here on making sure that everything we do meets national standards for best practices. And so we've undertaken a concerted effort to watch what the Council on Foundations recommends in all of our grant making, scholarship, governance kinds of work, and are working through the process to really follow their guidelines. And so a strong dedication to best practices here. And finally, I think Mary Craigel is going to talk a little bit more about this, but with the work of the Investment Committee and the support of the MCF board, last fall we rolled out a new program here called the Partners for Montana's Future, which is a way for us to work very closely with professional advisors who have long-standing relationships with their clients And the important part about this new program is their clients can continue having those relationships with those advisors and with MCF, and those professional advisors can keep those assets under their management, and MCF becomes the legal owner of the assets. So hopefully that will encourage more and more charitable gifts coming through professional advisor relationships. And we formally announced it in late November, early December, and we had very positive response. I think in the month of December, we received over $100,000 worth of charitable gifts through this new program. And there's a whole part on our website dedicated to explaining that. But it is a new program, and it works very closely with our Montana Office of Gift Planning. So we're really, and our investment office under Emily's leadership. So we're really excited about that. Finally, I just want to tell any and all of you on the phone about our new online donor portal. And this is really a marked celebratory improvement from our perspective, where donors who have donor-advised funds or local community foundations can go right onto this portal and understand what the fund balances are, make grant recommendations. We've moved into the 21st century beyond the old paper model or the clunky website maybe that didn't work so well in the past. And so if you're not signed up for this donor portal but you're interested in learning more, please contact Kathy because she will help you figure out how to use it. Just want to remind you about our endowment distribution policy, our payout policy. As you know, Montana has adopted UPMIFA, the Uniform Prudent Management of Institutional Funds Act, and we absolutely follow that. And our board and our investment committee reviews our payout policy every year and makes a recommendation to the board. And you can see that this payout rate will remain the same, or did remain the same for this coming year as it did in the previous year. We've raised that rate, just to let you know. We've been at a flat 4% for a really long time, and we raised that payout rate to a 4.5%. With a couple of exceptions, but overall we recognize that we've done well in the market, and we want to make sure that we can return as much of those great earnings back into the communities and to the organizations for which these funds have been established. So that's just a little bit about our payout policy. The best news of all is this is a record year for us. We really had strong market returns, and combined with the payout rate adjustment that has now been two years in a row, just this month we sent out well over $2 million from our endowment funds, almost $2.4 million from our endowment funds into Montana organizations, which is a 25% increase from previous years. So we're very proud of that. We're very excited about that. And it doesn't just happen. As John will talk about, there's a lot of work that goes into getting there. Also, I want to remind you that there are two types of fees that we assess to every single fund that we have. One is our MCF administrative fee that supports the operation and the staff work here. And in the aggregate, our administrative fee is about 1.1%. Some fees, and it's a tiered structure, so the larger the fund, the lower the fee. Some are as low as 75 basis points, and some are as high as 2.25 for those very high-touch, complex scholarship administration fee for certain funds. And then we also have our investment management fee, and that investment management fee is somewhere between 55 and 60 basis points, and that's the work that we receive from our team at Anderson Hedge, who helps us, frankly, have a lot of. Can somebody push mute on your phone because we hear some feedback here?
*6, please.
Thanks. So thanks to the Anderson Hedge team and that great advice, and that's what that fee covers. So with that, I'd happy to take any quick questions, and if there are none, I'll turn it over to the woman who does everything in Montana, Mary Craigle, who serves as our board chair as well as the chair of our investment committee. Questions before Mary starts?
So.
All right.
Mary, thank you so much, and thank you all for joining us today. I am so proud to be the board chair of this fantastic organization, and really it's just a chance for me to say thank you. So first I want to say thank you particularly to our consultants, Anderson Hedge. As Mary mentioned, we've had fantastic returns. We have maintained the low fees that you have enjoyed over the years. We've increased payout rates, and so much of that work is done because we have the consultants we do. So thank you again to Anderson Hedge. I also want to spend a little moment to thank those members on the investment committee. The investment committee has taken great strides this past year. Mary talked about the Partners in Montana's Futures. We've also expanded into other investment areas in order to increase the returns. And again, that adjustment in the payout rate, which was so critical to keep us not only providing more funds out to Montana, but in line with our peers in other areas. So special thanks to all the investment committee, but particularly to Alice Keene, Jack King, and Jeff Brotherton, long-term members who have seen the growth, have brought us to this area where we've grown to this remarkable level. So thank you to each of them. I also want to thank the new board members who are joined us on the investment committee, and most importantly, the great staff here at the Montana Community Foundation. The work that you see, the expansion that you see going from that 5 to 15 staff has been done in an amazing, prudently careful manner. We're never expanding beyond our area that we can control, and do it in such great way, and it's under the leadership of Mary Rutherford and the fine team that we have here. So every day it makes my job as board chair one to just celebrate what's happening each day. As I mentioned, we've done some amazing things in the investment area, and moving ahead, we will be looking now at the future and currently going through the RFP process to look at our investment management, and we'll be making that announcement soon. But again, it's with the eye to having the best service and providing the best returns to our donors every day. I would welcome any questions, any suggestions from anyone on the line. I traditionally always provide my cell phone number, which is 431-9434, 431-9434. And I can be reached pretty much all the time, or you can reach out to any board member or staff, because that's what we're here for. We're here for the donors that have made this organization what it is. We're here for the state of Montana. And Mary would be upset with me if I didn't say, and we're making Montana dreams come true, one dream at a time. So thank you all, and if you have questions of me, you can address them now, or like I said, 431-9434. Thanks.
Any questions from anyone? If not, we'll turn things over to John Hedge, who is our key guy over at Anderson Hedge, and he will go through some of the details on the investment side of things. John?
Yes, thank you, and very pleased to be here. In spite of these rough markets recently, I think we'll do fine. You're diversified and very well allocated, so we'll spend a little bit of time on last year's performance and then a few comments going into this next year. As Mary said earlier, on this page there's a lot of words, so you can read it later, but again, my name's John Hedge. I'm part of Bank of America Merrill Lynch Global Institutional Consulting. We cover a 5-state area, and most importantly, we're blessed to be able to live and work out of Montana. So very pleased to be here with you. As we know, in these very volatile markets, we rely heavily on our number one ranked research to provide a steady hand in this time of volatility. And I think you're going to see how that steady hand has really paid dividends to the Montana Community Foundation as far as performance relative to benchmarks. Before we get into reviewing the Montana Community Foundation performance, we should, or it would be appropriate to set the stage by just looking at how the overall markets did last year, year ending December 31st, 2015. And as you can tell, if you go to the far right there, the 1-year number, There's a lot of negative numbers on there. It was what we would call in our industry a rough year in the financial markets. You can see the Dow Jones barely broke even, and the S&P 500 was a little bit above 1.4%, just a little above break even. And then kind of went downhill after that. The Russell 2000, which is a proxy for small company stocks in the U.S., was down 4.4%. The next line, MSCI EAFE, that's really your developed international markets, it was down almost 1%. And emerging markets, which would be dominated by Brazil, Russia, India, and China, those were down, and there's other countries in there, but those were down almost 15%. The fixed income was marginal at best. The U.S. broad market fixed income was up about a little over 0.5%. And then if you look at some other indices, and we all follow gold and crude, those really had very, very rough years last year. You could argue it would have been a very, very difficult year if we didn't have a reasonably good fourth quarter. You can see the fourth quarter numbers there were actually very, very strong. So it at least saved the year with break even for large U.S. stocks. I'm kind of the bearer of bad news so far this year. If we look at the markets through last Friday, and even as of today, they aren't significantly different than this. The markets have not started well in 2016. I know you're all aware of that. The S&P 500 was down about 6. The Dow's down 5.5. Small caps down 11. International is down 9. And emerging markets are down about 6. And then the U.S. bond market has done okay. It's up about 1.9% for the year. So it's a rough start for the year as far as U.S. market indices. So how is Montana Community Foundation positioned and going into this year? Well, I'm pleased to tell you the portfolio is extremely high quality. The investment committee at Montana Community Foundation is very engaged. They're very involved, and a little over a year ago, the portfolio was really focused on high quality, and that paid off well in 2015, and we think relative to the markets, it should hold true in 2016. So your stocks are extremely high quality, your fixed income is extremely high quality. You wouldn't have anything what we would call below investment grade bonds or any highly volatile fixed income products. If we look at the history, and I think Mary's going to make a few comments here on the charitable grants, but we'll get into the numbers a little bit later, but you can certainly see the history is what the investment earnings have been and the total assets, and I think Mary was going to say a couple of words about the charitable grants.
Thanks, John. I think it's pretty remarkable that we have distributed across Montana over $38 million since 1989. And just to give you a perspective, in the last 6 months of 2015, we distributed almost just over $2.7 million. So you can see that these great investment returns and the donations coming in the door really are going back out to serve Montana. So it's pretty impressive, and it's frankly a data point we're really proud of.
These investment returns really aren't a result of an accident. They're a result of a very disciplined process. The investment committee over 20 years ago put together an investment process, and it all started with an investment policy, and you can see the investment objective here. I'm not going to go through it, a lot of words as we would say, but it's a balanced approach. It's got a long-term horizon, very, very diversified. It talks about a discipline for keeping within an asset allocation range. So it is a very disciplined process that the investment committee at Montana Community Foundation has been involved with for over 20 years. And that process is really a 6-step process. Years ago, an investment policy was developed, and over the years, there's been changes to the asset allocation and the asset allocation modeling. Again, the investment committee has spent significant time staying up with the products that have changed over the last 20-25 years. It's a dynamic process. The Community Foundation also has little tolerance for underperforming money managers. They hire and fire money managers seldom if they, or I should say, if they don't perform, they're fired. When they are replaced, there's a significant process that is in place to look at managers to replace them, and during every manager search, the Montana Community Foundation is very aware of the opportunity to either index or to hire an active manager. If the active manager does not have a consistent history of paying for themselves and the extra cost of active management, then indexing would win over. The step 5, then the portfolio strategy and tilting goes on. Asset allocation tilting, meaning do you overweight stocks or bonds in certain environments. And then, of course, performance is measured against independent benchmarks every quarter, and you can see it's a cycle. It's a very dynamic process which has led to very consistent returns over the last 20 years.
And I just want to say, hey John, this is Mary Craig. I just want to say again, the reason that we are able to do that diligent process is because of the investment consulting that we get. So again, thank you, Anderson Hedge, for keeping us on track and being aware of all those opportunities. It is amazing that we have done as well as we have, but it's not by accident.
The next slide would show the process behind, just give you a little window into how diligent the investment committee has been when the investment committee hires managers at Montana Community Foundation. They rely on our research group to whittle down the tens of thousands of money managers out there, and we do the due diligence we do an 8-factor model, both quantitative and qualitative, to bring what we believe are the best managers in the industry to Montana Community Foundation. And then Montana Community Foundation has been very, very active in the selection of those managers to find managers that fit the profile of both the objectives of the investment policy and the risk associated with their style of investing. That has led to a very, very diversified portfolio. You can see you have what we would call large cap growth managers, you have large cap value managers, you have managers that specialize in smaller companies, you have them that specialize in international bonds, you'd have some that would specialize in global bonds. We have a piece of Montana Community Foundation of private equity. So very, very diversified portfolio, which I think you will see here in a moment has led to some outperformance against our goals. The Montana Community Foundation target asset allocation on the next slide shows that it is a dynamic process and it has changed significantly over the years, and we would suspect at Montana Community Foundation and the investment committee that it would continue to change as opportunities present themselves in the market. One of the guiding principles at the Montana Community Foundation and the investment committee is to pay a significant amount of attention to our long-term strategic asset allocation and the risk associated with the portfolio. I'm going to get into this a little bit later, but this asset allocation guidelines and adherence to the guidelines, I will show you later, has really brought significant returns, because what it does when an asset class does extremely well, say stocks, and stocks drift outside the maximum in the portfolio, the disciplined investment policy mandates that that asset class is sold or trimmed. So what it does is it brings a discipline where Montana Community Foundation is constantly trimming or selling high and buying something low. It's exactly what you'd want to do in investments. You've always heard sell high and buy low. Well, this is a process that is a discipline put in place where the Montana Community Foundation has done that. Very powerful. Which has really led to a long-term history of very, very solid returns. If you look at this slide here, since 1990, the portfolio has averaged approximately 7.7% over that 20-some year period of time. But I just want to embellish a couple of periods. And we all remember that we have lived through 2 market crashes in the last 15 years. One of them was in 2001 and 2002. And you can see that 2002 was down 13% or almost $3.6 million. But what the Montana Community Foundation did and the investment committee, by adhering to an investment policy, what was the Montana Community Foundation doing in 01 and 02? They were actually buying more stocks. And look what happened in 2003 and 2004. So that discipline in place from the investment policy mandated picking up more equities when really no one wanted to do it. It was out of favor. Pay attention to 2008 as well. The portfolio was down almost $13 million or 22%. But the Montana Community Foundation, because of their discipline, when the markets were off, went in and bought more stocks. And look at the returns in 09 and 010, 8.9 million and then 6.5 million. I just wanted to highlight those seasons of time. They're not enjoyable and they're not fun when the market goes through those corrections, but it's the behavior and the discipline of the Montana Community Foundation and the investment committee that really has brought very solid returns over that 20-some year period of time. The portfolio for the 1 year ending, net of fees, did 1.9%. The markets would have given you 0.2%. We call that 20 basis points. So the discipline and the process and the oversight of the investment committee and the Montana Community Foundation brought very solid returns for the year, even though it was a very, very difficult market. And you saw that as well in the fourth quarter here. The portfolio net of fees was approximately 4.6% versus the index of 4.2. So in summary, the portfolio is extremely high quality. It's been a rough start to 2016, but because of the discipline and the process, Montana Community Foundation has an excellent discipline in place to rebalance the portfolio and to bring returns that are competitive or hopefully consistently over the goals and the benchmarks. Any questions?
I know everybody's really busy reading this disclosure statement, John. Thank you for that great overview. I appreciate it.
Again, it's *7 to unmute your line. Are there any questions from folks on the call?
Well, I will have to say a special thanks to Riley because, and normally you see Emily's name and contact information here. Her little daughter wasn't due till the 1st of March, but decided to come into this world a little earlier than we'd anticipated, and we're super excited to see them come home and meet them and all of that. But in the meantime, you're stuck with us, and I want to say thanks to Riley for working with John to orchestrate making sure we could continue with this webinar. We hope you found it interesting and informative and comforting in these tumultuous market times. Thank you.
And in case anybody wants to refer back to the webinar at a later date, we will place the recording up on the Montana Community Foundation website, which is mtcf.org. and that'll be available either late this afternoon or tomorrow morning. With that, I think we'll say thank you and close the webinar unless anyone has any last questions or comments. If not, thanks everyone for joining us, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you. That was very good.
Thank you. Thanks, John.